something that I don't think enough people understand about the dynamic between Trump and his supporters and what enables Trump to get to power like he has is that a lot of his supporters don't believe he's going to do the stuff that he says he's going to do. And so, or they don't really engage with the facts of what it could mean in their lives. And so as we analyze the response to some of the proposed policies or policies that are actually being implemented from his supporters, people who voted for him, that's an important thing to keep in mind, which is a lot of them really hear him say stuff and go, I don't think he's serious about that, which is not what they should do, obviously. But that's a part of why he was even able to get into power. So this time we've analyzed it a lot with tariffs and sort of either people not understanding tariffs or not thinking he's going to do the extent of the proposed things that he's laid out. So it's probably not going to cause these price increases when it will. And so we're not doing that again. Today, I want to talk about the Department of Education. Trump has repeatedly said that he wants to get rid of altogether the Department of Education and dismantle it completely, abolish it. A reminder of that is as follows. Another reminder, make sure to click the subscribe button if you appreciate this channel. We have started just for extra stories so that it doesn't get too clogged up all on one channel. We started a second channel actually for extra little bonus stories for the avid viewers. Link in the description. It's called Beasley After Hours. I unbutton the shirt. Not really. Get a cocktail and do some extra stories.
It'll be great. You know, I'm going to take the Department of Education, close it in Washington, let the states run their own education.
So whether it be getting rid of the Department of Education or getting rid of FEMA or any of the other things, restricting funding to the IRS, another thing Trump wants to do, so often, and I know this is a commonly discussed phenomenon, you'll hear this phrase a lot, but really sit with it because it's crazy that this is the case. Trump is planning to and is implementing policies that don't just hurt people, and that's bad enough, but disproportionately hurt his own voters. And that's what I want to get into, starting with an anecdote of a teacher and or a principal, I should say, who voted for Trump, but is talking about how devastating this could be for her. And I have all the sympathy in the world, but why are you voting for him, but you don't think he's going to do the thing that he's going to do? And then we'll zoom out and talk about the data on stuff like this and how Trump could oversee a presidency that, yes, goes after his political enemies and does all these different scary things that hurt everyone, but also is actively undermining the well-being of his own voters specifically and uniquely. Crazy. Here's a really interesting report from CNN that we'll discuss.
Good morning, all you Bulldogs. It is a great day to be a Bulldog.
Bell County, Kentucky.
Almost 80% of our students are underprivileged.
What kind of poverty are you talking about with some of these kids?
You're going to create your own.
I would be confident in saying that when they leave on Friday, they may not eat again until Monday.
For School Superintendent Tom Gambrill, funding is more than just books.
When coal mining was basically eliminated in our area, we've been losing population. When you lose students, you lose funding.
The elementary and middle school principal is Jennifer Blankenship.
Remember, boys and girls, I love you, I believe in you, and I've got your back.
You are acutely aware of money.
Oh, acutely aware of it.
Do you have to be acutely aware?
You do.
Every year of her 28 years as an educator here, Blankenship fought for every dollar for her kids.
How much of this room is funded?
The entire room.
A third of all of Bell County, Kentucky school district funding in 2021 came from federal sources. So this district is listening as incoming President Donald Trump pledges this.
One other thing I'll be doing very early in the administration is closing up the Department of Education in Washington.
Do you remember those videos he would post when we covered them as a side note? And then, like I said, we'll dive into all the substance of this, but spit would be like nearly spilling out of his mouth and he'd record himself. And this did it. This did it for him.
Washington, D.C., and sending all education and education work and needs back to the states.
What exactly that means for a state like Kentucky is unclear. Trump won this state. In Bell County, 84% voted for Trump, yet it deeply relies on federal funding. And that's not unusual. A CNN analysis found the 15 states that most rely on federal funding for its public schools in 2022 all voted for Trump.
And I voted for President Trump.
I mean, you're an educator. You
Yes.
didn't vote for Trump eliminating federal funds
No,
here.
I did not vote for that. I voted for President Trump to make America first again and to improve our lives.
Do you believe that he would cut funding for this county?
I want to say in my heart, absolutely not. I do not think that's what the voters want. If we have federal cuts, then that's going to mean bigger classroom sizes. I would lose teachers, first and foremost. It's devastating for this school in particular.
If these cuts happen, it'll be awful. It'll be awful.
Let me play a little bit more of this in a second. But did you see that? All 15 states that receive the most in federal educational funding are red states, are states that voted for Trump. As he's saying he wants to get rid of that. Do you know what leave it up to the states completely means? Do you know what getting rid of the Department of Education, getting rid of the mechanisms by which that support is delivered? It means it goes away. The reason why there are federal structures in place to close the gap when there's a gap between what a state government's doing, what they have the resources to do, or what they're choosing to do, and what should be done. Trying to uplift states that are experiencing major either shortcomings, failures in governance, or just happen to be for systemic reasons, struggling more. And I want that. No matter how much you may hate me, MAGA, I want you to get that extra support, way more than blue states are getting. But Trump wants to get rid of it. And let me go through some zoomed out numbers. So that's education, all 15. And Trump's saying, get rid of it. And it would be devastating. She's realizing how messed up this would be for her after voting for it. But in all spending, so if we do, as we've talked about before, how much does a state pay into the federal government in taxes, and then how much do they get back in federal spending? The states that receive far more in federal spending than they pay into the system are New Mexico, West Virginia, Mississippi, Alaska, Montana. Those are the top 5. And except for New Mexico, those are all red states. And then of the states that pay more into the system than they get back in federal spending, so they're subsidizing the states that receive more. And it's okay that they receive more. When you have more exacerbated problems or need more help, I want you to get it. But see if you can pick up on a trend of these states that pay more into the system. Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Minnesota, Colorado, California, Utah. Utah is the only red state, the rest blue states. So the blue states are funding extra enhanced support, are paying more than what they get back in support in the federal government to those red states. And we're okay with that because we want people to get the help they need. But your guy wants to get rid of that because the states can handle it. Well, clearly not the red states. And this is what can be so exhausting about doing this. We get tons of hate. I'd say, and I've mentioned this before, of online shows, I'm really grateful for how positive of a community we have, and the feedback's mostly positive. But there are people who are really, really mad at me. And it's really confusing when you every day are advocating for things that include helping them and they hate you for it. And they want to defend Trump so badly, thinking that we have some misplaced hatred towards him, when really it's because when you look at these women in this story from CNN, this principal, I don't want to give up on her. I don't want to go, well, you're going to get what you what you voted for. No, even if she's actively enabling the problem, I want to push back against that problem. She's doing the work of an angel. You heard her saying, I love you, I support you, being a principal to students in a low-income community, desperately wanting them to thrive. One of the most admirable jobs and so important. But we have to get through that you can't vote for the people saying they want to hurt you. Openly, Trump didn't hide that. He said, get rid of the Department of Education. And in the minds, let me play more of this actually before I continue, because I could go on for a while, as you can tell.
For our kids.
Mrs. Goodnight, as her 4th and 5th graders call her, grew up in Bell County. Her son is a 3rd grader here.
They're not going to be as prepared in their adult lives. Just because they're here in Appalachia doesn't mean they don't deserve it. They deserve it just as much as anybody else.
My first position was a part-time custodian in the district.
This superintendent is still doing multiple jobs, taking on paying invoices and answering the district's phones just so he can save money on administrative help and send more money to his classrooms.
I don't think that anyone in our county wants to cut our school funding. I don't think that anyone voted for that.
Do you mind if I ask who you voted for in the election?
I voted for Donald Trump, and I voted against Amendment 2.
Amendment 2, so-called school choice, would have allowed Kentucky tax dollars to go to non-public schools. But it failed overwhelmingly in Kentucky, even though President Trump supports the policy.
The education of our students is the most important thing to me. That's my job. I don't think that either of my votes will harm our students overall.
And I do believe that they believe that. I don't think they're lying. But it shows you how Trump gets away with this, I guess, which is, I don't understand. He says things, then they go, no, I don't think so. Imagine, you heard just how tight things are economically. Imagine both being hit with price increases from the tariffs and deportations at the same time as funding dries up. And I know maybe the defense would be, I don't think Trump's going to cut funding. I just think he's going to get rid of the Department of Education. But that's the institution that facilitates that. It's like when Trump says FEMA, we're going to get rid of FEMA, but we'll make sure the states have all the resources that they need. How do you think the federal government facilitates that? Just FEMA. That's how. It will cut. And also when he talks about we're going to cut $2 trillion or whatever out of the budget, these exorbitant numbers, while pushing a tax plan that would balloon the deficit, meaning he's talking about reducing revenue, which would mean we'd had to cut even more spending to balance out that. And where do you think that comes from? It comes from somewhere. It comes from somewhere. And I don't know how you get through. It's so deep. It's so deep, as you heard, 80+% in this county, where it's not a conversation could change a profound social and cultural buy-in to not just the man or the set of policies that Trump represents, but the identity association they have. It's a part of folks' identity, and I do warn you not to make a person or a party linked with your identity, because it will make it difficult if they start going astray for you to change your mind about them or the party. But instead, I do think making your identity, it's a beautiful thing around the activism, around the policies you care about, around the change you want to see, and then support your heart out when people represent that. But don't make it linked, because that's what's happened, which is why Trump can get away with and do so much. Because to abandon him would be to abandon a part of themselves in sort of their identity, something we've talked about for a long time. And I just go back to, this isn't just education. It's not just FEMA. All of these different programs that MAGA leaders will list off wanting to get rid of. I do think it's perfectly embodied by education, but it's so weird because you'll get this crazy pushback. We're the enemy from within, as Trump has described us, for desperately not wanting him to hurt his own supporters. Yeah, hey, don't hurt us either, but I'm seeing how this could hurt them more, and I'm worried for them. And some do have the mentality of, wow, you get what you voted for. I don't feel that, because I know in a world that is complex and confusing, and there's propaganda, and there's, as I said, instilled cultural beliefs. I understand people can get swept up in a busy life in voting what I see to be the wrong way. But, and so I don't go to the place of, wow, you're going to get what you voted for. But will they realize, could we change course? And I do not want to hear, because this is why when I played that clip of Trump, everyone claps, yay, woohoo. Get rid of it. All of the people in the crowd are thinking, I'm so tired of the blue states sucking on the teat of the government. They're taking advantage of us. And it's the opposite. I don't think you're taking advantage. I'm just saying, well, I'm upset with a lot of your Republican leaders in your state that make these problems worse, but also some of it's more systemic. And it's the complete opposite of what they imagine. So when they talk about these federal programs, getting rid of them and not allowing in their mind the blue states to exploit us and take our tax dollars, you're benefiting from this arrangement here, okay? That's the other reason when they talk about secession, when they talk about, I wish just the red states could be a country. No, you don't. No, you don't. You wouldn't have the money for that. It is, as an example, West Virginia receives $3.26 for every dollar that's paid to the federal government taxes. Give $1, get back $3. Alaska, $3. Mississippi, $3. And these are maybe rough numbers, but where do you think that comes from? The states that are paying, the opposite. And we want that because by some crazy miracle, we care about you. You keep hating me, but I care about you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Support the show if you'd so like to by clicking that join button below.